Thank you very much. Thanks also to Professor Maloney for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. I have to say, being a Northern European myself, I really don't like this type of weather, which is also the reason I'm not wearing a tie. But I'll squeeze myself into a jacket on Wednesday for the gala dinner, I'm afraid. So I am the academic director of NISIS. NISIS stands for the Netherlands Inter-University School for Islamic Studies. So NISIS is a school that focuses only on one religion, namely Islam. And within that, we do have a very multidisciplinary focus. So we have anthropologists, scholars of law, historians, political scientists, all kinds of people studying Islam. And we also have a very broad geographical range. So there are people working on Islam in Europe, people working on Islam in Indonesia, and basically everything in between. So also the Middle East, Iran, etc. NISIS aims to enlarge and deepen already existing knowledge of Islam and Muslim societies. It tries to create an academic community in which research in the field of Islam and Muslim societies can be optimally pursued. And we try to mediate between a new generation of researchers and an older or senior generation of researchers. And we have various activities. One of the activities we have is seasonal schools. So in a month, a bit less than a month, we will have a spring school in Lausanne, Université de Lausanne in Switzerland. We have an autumn school, which is usually in the Netherlands. And we also have smaller activities. And through these activities, we try to gather PhD students, but also research master students. I know that this is a PhD forum, but it's perhaps important to mention that we also have master students and research master students. NISIS, unlike some of the institutes that have been presented so far, is not tied to one university in the Netherlands. It's really a national research school. I am an associate professor at the University of Utrecht, but it's just that NISIS is situated at Utrecht University now, and it so happens that that is the case, but in 2026 it moves to a different university, and then someone else will become the director. But it's really a national research school, combining all the institutes in the Netherlands that have an Islamic studies, Middle East studies, religious studies department focusing on Islam. And we also have close collaboration with the University of Ghent in Belgium, and the University of Leuven, the Catholic University of Leuven, of which my colleague here is a member, and the Ruhr-Universität in Bochum in Germany. So that's just a few facts about who we are. Now, what I wanted to address was two specific problems that we have, or specific challenges, let me put it slightly more positively, challenges that we face. The first is running a doctoral school on a very topical subject like Islam. And the second is getting students involved in our activities. And I was very glad that you mentioned that already, because that is something we struggle with as well. So religion is a topical subject, I think, for all of us. We'll acknowledge that. But Islam, well, perhaps a bit more than others, I would say. And that's not always for the best of reasons. We have all heard of groups like Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, and these are not organizations that most people like very much, or also problems regarding things like immigration and integration. So Islam is often associated with problems, and that is something that we as a research school have to deal with. And among some people outside the research school, this creates the idea that we as NISIS members, and I as the director of NISIS, have to address these problems, that we always have to chase the news, as it were. If anything happens regarding Islam, we have to organize an event. And sometimes we do such things. For example, the last autumn school we had was about Sunni-Shiite relations. The next autumn school we're going to organize is about Sunni-Shiite relations, and then we deal with groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen, for example, who are in the news quite frequently. So we do create opportunities to address these issues. We also have a current course on the role of Islam in the Palestinian and Israeli conflict. So this is also something in which we address topics that are in the news all the time. At the same time, we can't do that all the time, of course. We can't chase the news all the time. We are an academic research school, and we have to create room for things like studying the Quran, for example. Our last autumn school was about the Quran and its interpretive communities. That's something we want to do. We don't want to be seen as, and we don't want to chase the news all the time. So this is difficult. So on the one hand, we would like to show our relevance. I mean, Islam is relevant, even for societal debates. Also, because we are a taxpayer-financed institution, so we want to do something in return. Sometimes it's just about the money. But on the other hand, we also don't want to give the impression that that's all we do. So this is something we are struggling with. And our solution so far, and I'd be happy to listen to any suggestions you have, is to mix things, as I just said. So we focus on the Quran, but we also focus on Sunni-Shiite relations. We focus on issues that have nothing to do with the news, but we also focus on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So that's one problem, one challenge. The second one is getting students involved in our activities. And this is presumably something that to a certain extent all of us struggle with, and particularly those who do not struggle with that, please let me have your views, because apparently you're doing something very right. So I'd love to hear your views on this. Now the Netherlands, I have to say, has a relatively small number of students studying Islam, in the broadest sense of the word. So for example, every year at my university we have a research master program, and we have students sitting in a room, and then I come by and then I present something about NISIS, and then I ask them, which of you are interested in Islam? And of about 10 students, I'm lucky if there are 2 or 3 who are interested in Islam. So that's the situation. And as such, we sometimes have trouble finding students for our activities. Now, there are also things like limited finances and such. But we also find, and this is probably something that you will find as well, and that really hooks up with what you just said, students are very busy working on their PhDs, which is obviously good. That's what they should be doing. As a supervisor myself, that's what you want to encourage them to do. But at the same time, it's sometimes difficult for these PhD candidates to see that there is something beyond their PhD. So that it's good to meet with colleagues just like you, that it's good to meet with your future colleagues, that it's good to gain insights from other people. And on the one hand, it's difficult for them to develop the discipline to focus, sort of with a tunnel vision, focus on the PhD, but on the other hand, you also want them to have a broader view. And we have all these activities, and we advertise like there's no tomorrow, but at the same time, we find it difficult to attract people and say, okay, now it's time to put your keyboard aside and join an activity. This is just good fun, and that will allow you to network, etc. And given the limited time that they have, given the limited resources that they have, they often just focus on what they have to do rather than other things that are perhaps of secondary importance, but nevertheless still important. So the solution to this problem that we have applied so far, and I'll end with this, is that we frantically promote the events we have. We also have fewer events, which seems to be okay with the PhD candidates. It may not be strictly necessary to have so many events throughout the year, because perhaps there is an overkill of events. And finally, we also limit our finances to those activities of what we can do and what we can do quite well. For example, organizing a collective lunch is sometimes far more useful than listening to papers all the time. I mean, I know I'm being slightly iconoclastic here, but I see several people nodding their heads, so you know what I'm talking about. So these are the solutions we've applied so far, but I'd love to hear your comments. Thank you.